Good day, students. In this workshop, you're going to navigate to files, project files, and it'll be Archicad Workshop 4. I would recommend that you download the whole folder and save it on your machine. Okay, so download this. So we're going to go and open its location, show in folder. Then what we're going to do is we're going to move this file and put it in a location where you're going to work. Remember, when you're done the exercise, you're going to have to replace the information and upload it to a link provided. Okay, so I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I've already made a folder, Workshop 4, Archicad. I'm just going to dump it in here, so I don't need that at the moment. I'm going to paste it in here and extract the information here. Okay, so what you should get in this folder, I've given you some examples that you can go and look at. So a typical SG diagram. So these are the site pegs, but in the site surveyor's information I would have covered this. So I've just given you some information. SG diagram, an example of surveyor's drawing, and a PDF of what we're going to be producing. So the PDF will be this PDF that you'll need to produce for me in class. So if you follow along with this exercise, you should be able to recreate this drawing as per this example. Okay, so let's just close the file and open up. So I've given you a starting file, so please open this, and I've given you two external references we're going to use, and I've given you an existing tree object that we're going to use within our Archicad file as well. So this is where Archicad and Revit differ quite a lot. So as you open up this exercise, please save this file as your own project file. So save as, I'm just going to call this my site, and then you and your student number, please. Okay, so save the project. So you'll see when you open up this project, I've already provided a site plan. Just remember, the site plan and the ground floor plan, in essence, you're looking at the same thing. The only difference is that you're going to apply different layer combinations, and you're going to go and set this height quite different. So your side plan, so you'll see that your cut plane gets a lot larger. So all of this information changes quite dramatically compared to your ground floor plan. So you're going to be looking above. So it's a bird's eye view looking down. So hence the cut plane is so very high. Okay, and you're going to look quite far down as well. So that's why all of this is set the way it is. Okay, so typically we're going to work in plan millimeters, dimensioning for now, so that's fine. Press OK. Just remember that you check all the settings down below. You can see plan millimeters, plan, but we're going to get to this in a minute. Okay, so just make sure that all the settings are set the same, and we're going to be using a sheet just now. But in essence, if you wanted to start this plan from new, you can duplicate a site plan. So you can duplicate a floor plan. So any floor plan that you're working on, you can duplicate, but in essence it's a ground floor plan. So if you double click ground floor, so let's just activate this plan, ground floor. So in essence, all that we're doing is just creating a new view based off this, making it none. You don't need an ID for this. You can make it custom, it doesn't matter. For now, no ID. And again, we're just going to say custom, and you're going to call this site plan. Make sure that you set all this information, and then just go and make sure that you set this correctly as well. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so remember, at any point you can go and create new ones. So I've created one for you. It's a site plan, just to make sure that this process goes quite smoothly. But just remember, going forward, you're going to duplicate these as well. Okay, so with my site plan, make sure that site's active. The reason why the brackets is there is just because it's in essence a ground floor plan, but you're looking at it, you'll be viewing the information from a site perspective. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you'll need to go and place the information. So go to place external drawing. So you've got an option to bring in all different types of drawings, but for now I know for a fact that a lot of the times we'll get information from the surveyor in a DXF format, so we're going to use DXF. But remember, you can use DWG as well. So you're going to press open. Now this is very important. These drawings are always in meters, so you have to click the meters option. And now I'm going to simply place a drawing in the view. Great. Now to check a dimension, you can check the building line, for example. So to make sure that this is to the correct scale, make sure that's 100%, and you can just simply use the measuring tool, and you see it's 2000. Okay, so we're working in millimeters. The next thing I want you to do is move the setting out point of the drawing. So this is also very important, and this is different to Revit, for example. You need to place, so the internal origins of this drawing must try and match this. So I use a setting out point. Archicad has got a setting out point and project base point very similar to Revit. I'll get into the nuance of this later on, but for now just understand that you've got to move the external reference or the external drawing to the correct location. So this location, if I just move it away again, this is the internal origin of the Revit, of the Archicad file. This is very important to understand. So I'm going to move this back and put this over that location. The next thing that we want to do in order to create a topography, remember this is an exercise of 2D and 3D. So we're going to be working in a combination of 2D and 3D elements the whole time to start putting our topography together. Okay, but the way we represent the site information is very different. We don't need a lot of 3D information at the moment because we've been given a lot of information from the surveyor. You're not always going to get all this information I'm about to give you, but for now I'm going to show in Archicad how you use this information in your drawings. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is select the block or the imported object or drawing. We'll need to explode this, and we'll need to make, so we're going to use drawings of the layer. So what it'll do, it'll keep, and remember to uncheck this keep original objects. You can use this because you can put it on a separate layer, and I'll show you how to do that as well. So it's going to have exploded objects and, okay, so, and there's a quick way that we can jump through the layers, and I'll show you that as well. So keep export all, and we're going to explode. So what's going to happen is you're going to have exploded line work, and you're going to have the reference in your drawing. So typically what I do with the references, if you click the angles, I'm going to change the boundary. So I'm just going to make the boundary slightly bigger for now. Okay. Then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put this on a layer that I can control for now. So this is an introduction to layers as well. So this is where Revit and Archicad is very different. In Revit, you use categories, whereas in Archicad, you're using layers a lot. It's a bit more like AutoCAD. It's got a combination of AutoCAD and Revit. Okay, so I'm also trying to get used to this. So I will, okay, for now, I'm just going to put it on the hidden layer so it'll disappear. If I need to bring it back at any point in layers, just remember for site, we use the layer combination for site. At any point, I can do that, switch it back on, use it to work with, but if I don't want it anymore, I can simply right click in the view again and go to layers and just hide layer again. Okay. But remember, if I want to reset everything, I just simply go back to layer combinations and I change it back to site. Okay, we're going to get into the nuances of this in a minute. The next thing we need to start doing is, now that we've got information in from our surveyor, we need to quickly start cleaning up this information and putting everything in the right layer. So at the moment, we've got information that looks quite good. We just have to change some of the custom settings. Now, when you're selecting objects and layers, just make sure that you're using the cut selection tool so we can select these very quickly. I want to select all the contour information, not the trees. So select just the contour information for now. I just want to extract the contours and start using the information that the surveyor gave me. So what's interesting in Archicad, the 3D information becomes 2D. So just, that's something to bear in mind. That's very different to Revit. Revit, you can have the option of 3D and 2D. Okay, so here are my layers now. So what I need to do very quickly is I need to add a layer now, because I need to start working with my layers correctly. So it doesn't matter in your layers category. Sometimes you can show them in subfolders, but for now we're just going to work with all the layers in the project because I think it's just going to be a bit easier to manage your layers. Okay, so I'm going to go to new. I'm going to create a new layer. I'm going to call this site. Give them a prefix so that they're easy to find. Okay, so I'm going to go site, and I'm going to say contours. Okay, you can go even further. You can call this contours existing maybe. Maybe that's what I need to do, so I've got more control, because if we have a combination of existing and proposed, we can use that workflow. So for now, I'm just going to say site contours, press OK. Now all this information that I've got selected, while it's selected in my drawing palette, I'm going to go and look for my site layers. And here you can see site contours. The next thing I need to do is I'm going to assign all of them to a correct layer that I know that I'm going to use. So it'll be that pen. Just make sure that you're using the grayscales. We're going to add some more pens to that in a minute. I've added some information for you, but we might have to add some more. So we'll get into that a bit later. Okay, so I'm going to make all of these that layer, and I'm going to make all of them dashed. So you can go and make them look. For now, I'm just going to keep them dashed, just so that I've got more control. And at any point, you can go and select one, and you can lock layers. It just means now I can't delete those layers. So that's quite handy. That's important to understand. Okay. Maybe I just need to double check my layers. So what I'm going to do now, my layer combinations, I'm going to select all of my layers, Control A, and I'm going to switch all of them off. Then I'm going to go and find my site, because I just want to look at these layers, for example, without. So I just need to make sure that these are closed. Now by default, you would have noticed that this information came in from the Revit file as connected lines. If that's not the case, sometimes these lines can get exploded. So these lines can be exploded. So you can explode these lines. You can break them apart, or you can rejoin them again. So there's tools to break them apart and rejoin them. So if you go to Edit, Design, Architecture Tools. So you can go and modify these objects. You can blow them up. Okay, so there's a whole lot of tools that you can use to blow these lines up. So if you've used a series of line work, it's on a locked layer, so line work. So just make sure that you're using the correct layer, because all the layers are off, and you can see site X. So maybe we'll get to that in a minute, because maybe this line tool, you must just find the right layer to use. Okay, so this is the layer that I want to use, but it's currently locked, so I can't use it either. So I'm just going to use this Archicad layer for now. And if you draw a bit of line work, you at any point you can go and join these together. So you can select both of these, and you've got an option to join these objects together. So you can make them. Okay, so just remember, at any point you can go and make these objects. So I just don't have the tools active because the layer is actually technically locked at the moment. So if you can right click layer, you can just say unlock layer here. So you can say unlock layer, then you can see you've got these tools. So you can explode it again to make it separate objects, or you can then combine them. Okay, so you've got all of these tools to go and explode them. Okay, but for now it's coming correctly. The only thing I need to do is maybe go and add a bit more. So for example, here I might need to add a point and close this off. Okay, so that's important. You want this to be a closed line, so that I just want to delete. So I'm just going to move that point back to there. So it deletes this point. My bad. So let's just get rid of this bit of line work. So I'm going to grab this bit of line work. I'm going to move it. I'm going to move it back to there so it becomes part of the line work. Now with contours, you must make sure that you've got these. They must all be one continuous line. Okay, so the first part of the exercise is done. The next thing is I'm going to go back to my layers. And I'm going to switch all my layers back on, and I'm going to unlock all my layers. So I'm going to go to Control A all. I'm going to unlock all of them, press OK. It does bring back a whole lot of information. Just remember, we can go back to site for now. Okay, so what's interesting, we haven't added the layer, so we just need to say site contours maybe. And I'm going to update my site combination, so my layer combination for site, so I can see these for now. Okay, so we've recreated our site boundaries and our site contours. Okay, so what we need to do now is we might need to add a bit more information to this later on, but for now I'm just going to show you how you're going to start making your topography in 3D. Okay, so typically we've got a lot of information that we need. We'll add the trees later on, but for now I need to create a surface, in other words. So we need to create a surface which we then going to use to create our contours based off, and we've got our contour lines that the surveyor has given us. So here we can just simply use a rectangle. So maybe for now I'm going to say I want to go in this direction and then come in this direction. So what it'll do, it'll create a surface. We just need to change some information with regards to the surface. So straight out the box, So let me just delete it and start again and show you how you can go and set this up right from the beginning and add this to favorites. Okay, so that's quite important to know. So for now, I'm just going to make sure that this will work well with my grade pen styles. So typically, you're going to try and categorize this information, but for now, you'll see you've got all these other fills and we can go and add these on later. But for now, I just want to show you, so you can see there is some layers that we can maybe use. Okay, but this does take a bit of time to get used to. So I'm just going to use the drafting layers for now. So for cut line, I'm going to use the cut line and drafting for now. So that will be my 0.5 pen, because when we cut through the topography, that's interesting. The uncut line, so the way we look at it, I'm going to use the gray line for now. So it'll be the gray, I'll use that for now. And reach selection, so with the reach pens, which we need to see as well, we're going to use the same pen. Okay, we're using the same pen, the cover fill. I'm going to change it to background or airspace so I don't see it in this view, because I want to use a lot of the 2D information for now, and we can always hide this and put this on the correct layer as well. So that we'll get to in a minute as well. Okay, great. So now that I've kind of got all this information, you can make this go further down. That's fine for now. It just means that it gives us a lot of play with regards to this. With the generic, you can just pick different types of sand, soil. You can try and find grass maybe. So you can go and add these materials on later, but that's something that we'll get to later on. But for now, I'm just going to pick a generic ground. Okay, so you can just go and pick different types of gravel, sand. For now, I'm just going to make it soil or sand. So totally up to you. Pick the correct one that we're going to use. But for now, I'm going to call it soil. And I'm going to use this large function. If you're going to make other objects, I'll explain how to do that. We'll use these faces if we're going to use paving and roads. We'll get to that later. But for now, I'm happy with these settings. And I can add this to my topography. Okay, so you see I've got a site terrain I can use already. So I can, and you can see a lot of this is preset. So just remember, you might have to go and change this again. So you can use the presets in the file. Just make sure that you go and set this correctly. So this is the only thing that takes a bit of time to get, yeah. Alright, so that just takes a bit of time to go and sort this out. So just remember, background, airspace, background, it doesn't matter. I'm going to make a background for now. Good, and I'm just going to make sure that all of these pen covers are the correct pen covers that I've set up for my project. Okay, so make sure that's all set up. The rest of the information, uncut lines, that I'm also just going to change to that as well. So foreground pen, we can go and play with this information as well. It just means that if there is a fill when you're cutting through, it's gray as well. So that I might make, that's more of a hatch color. And then cover pen fill, so cover pen full foreground, so maybe that one as well, also make a 0.5, just so it's nice and thin. Okay, press OK. Now I'm going to quickly create my site. We're going to fine tune it now, so don't worry, we just want to cover as much of the site as we can. Everything will disappear, so that's correct. What you need to do then is you need to select this object and you need to send this to back, so draw order, send to back, and you might have to do it a couple times if it doesn't quite work. So while you've got your site or topography active, I'm going to quickly go and change the boundaries to kind of lie up with my, or tie in with my contours. Now this is where we're going to have to do a little bit more work on our contours, just so that these objects cut. If you want to use these contours correctly, there's just a strict rule on how they cut the topography, so we might just go and have to go and edit some of the line work of the site itself. So with the site selected, I'm going to change that to site terrain, so landscape terrain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep 2 layers on for the time being, just so that it makes this exercise a lot more. Control A, I'm going to switch off all of those. I'm going to go to site. So I'm going to make sure Lightscape General is on, terrain and contours and site contours for now. Press OK. We're going to need these layers. So all you need to ensure is that this line work crosses, goes past. So if they don't go past, you can simply add another point and just simply extend these lines past. So just make sure that the lines intersect or cross. Okay, so if they don't, you do end up with some issues, I have noticed. So just make sure that these lines are crossing the topography. Great. Now with the topography selected, and we're going to go and click the surface tool again, we can now use the spacebar tool. So what this will do is it'll try and identify the line work below and add it to this topography. So we're adding ridge lines. So we're adding user ridge lines. So this is how we're going to start creating our topography. So I'm going to press OK, and I'm going to keep doing this exercise for all of the contours that were given to me. So unfortunately with Revit will read the AutoCAD file and create the topography from the AutoCAD file with the DXF because the elevation's in. Unfortunately with Archicad, you have to go and pick these ridges and add your contours manually. So that's just a bit more of a workflow, but certain things are pros and cons, and that's what I'll get to now once we start producing the rest of the drawing. So a lot of the information that I have got from this array I can just use out the bat, whereas in Revit you've got to use some other tools. So the workflow is slightly different. Okay, so now that it's created all my ridges, I can go and hide the layers X now. So I can go and hide the layers X for now. I don't want to see those because I just want to focus on the layers. Okay, so now you can see everything's nice and gray. Now with your surface, I just want to explain this as well. When you create a surface with these ridge lines, when you start extruding them now, so if I pick this ridge line and I change the Z values, so in the edit tool, select we're going to change the Z, and I know that this must be 500 above. Okay, so now you can see it's starting to create these triangulation lines. Now if you need some information back, what you can do is you can go to layer and you can switch on the underlay, for example. So let's just switch everything back on, and that's very quick. I can just double click and go to site again. It brings everything back. So what I'm looking for is that reference that we created. So tab, mesh, tab again, tab. Okay, so I'm just going to hide that layer for now, layer, hide layer. I'm just looking for the block reference that we've used. I think I've put it on a hidden layer, so let me just bring that back. So I'm going to switch the hidden layer back on. Okay, so just be careful when you put things on certain layers, that hidden layer I'm going to use as well. So what I need to do is go to layers again, go to all, control all, switch all of them off. Go to my site, so I want my site terrain for now, and I want to switch my hidden back on, press OK. Okay, so the hidden layer is going to help me build my topography. Okay, so I'm going to grab my topography. So with my topography active, I'm going to start clicking on these points. So edit the contours. So I'm going to pick, okay, it is a bit tricky with this other layer above, so you just have to tab your mesh, select the points. That's going to be 1,000, and you're going to apply to all. Press OK. Now you're going to select this one. That's going to be, I'm just using this reference so I know that's going to be 1,500. 1,500. Good. Then I'm going to pick these. I'm going to change those. Those need to be 2,000. Good. I'm going to change those. 2,500. Okay, I think I'm changing the wrong thing here. So let me just go to 3D view. So I just want to go to 3D. So 3D view, just the basic 3D view. Okay, so you can see that it has started to identify the heights for us. Okay, so that's actually quite straightforward. So once we've got our topography and it's extracted, it's got the information from, so just tab, select the mesh, tab again, select the mesh, pick these, so that must be 4,500, pick those should be 4,000. So I'm just making sure that my ridges of my 3,500. Okay, and you can see it's brought a lot of the information through from that file that we've had. So I'm just making sure, so there's that one's not incorrect, so those ridge heights must be 3,000. Okay, so let's change those ridge heights, those must be 3,500. Press OK. Okay, so now you can see I'm able to add these now. So it was just reading information from that file below, so just be careful. Okay, so this will be 4,500, 4,500. So now you can see this triangulation that's happening on the topography. Okay, so that's important. So that must be 4,000, That must be 3000, yeah, 3000. At any point, if you're not sure, sorry, 2000, you can go and edit these ridges at any point, so that should be 2500. Good. So at any point, just go and double check, 3000, good. And you can see the triangulation is starting to work now. So that is 1500. Okay, and then this one should be a meter. Yep. And just make sure that that one is set to 500. Okay. Now, if you go to 3D view, you'll see now that we're going to have a mesh. So I created two by accident. So this one we must delete. It was this one that we were working on. So it was my bad. I duplicated the mesh by accident. So if I go to my site working now, there is a slight little issue with the corners of the site. So if we pick the corners of the site, we might have to pick a level that's between those two just to make the triangulation work a bit better. So this, for example, might have to be 4200. So I just try and pick a level that's somewhere in the middle of these two just to make this work. Okay, so if we go to 3D view now, you'll notice that our topography starts to look quite good. And we've got all of the internal line work, and so that we just need to improve the way it looks in our site plan. For 3D for now, we need this so that when we are building and manipulating our topography, that we can then go and make sure that this information works. So I'm just going to double check, so apply to all. I just want to make sure I don't have a higher level than I should. Okay, no, that's all looking good. But now you'll see that Archicad creates all of this triangulation for the mesh, which is not ideal. Okay, so I'm just going to tab until I select the mesh. With the mesh selected, what I want to do is I want to switch off certain information. So for example, I just want to show the user ridges. I don't want to see any other triangulation. I want to see the ridges that I've created. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my layers and hide the information from, I don't need that anymore. Okay, and then all I'm going to do with this information, I'm also going to go and change the way this looks as well. I'm going to change this to a dash line because in essence, this is an existing topography that we might hide in certain circumstances. It's given us enough information to work with. Okay, so now we've got some line work and we've got topography. So at any point, I can also hide this layer, hide layer, and then I'm going to go to layers and I'm just going to bring back my site contours existing. Okay, so these contours should match our terrain contours below. So site again, so site and terrain. So in essence, you'll see these should match up perfectly. Okay, now that this is working, I'm just going to go and hide my topography for now because it's kind of done its job. For the rest of this exercise, I'm going to use 2D elements to represent my site plan. So in essence, I can hide the site terrain for now, or you can leave it on. But for now, I'm just going to go and say site terrain. I'm going to switch that off for now. Press OK. Good. Now, I've got these lines. So I'm going to go back here and bring back my hidden. So what I need to do now is I need to go and find all the major contours and I need to change their line weight to be a major contour. So in essence, you'll see that I've made a major contour. So all the major contours, the meter ones, we need to go and make sure that they are on the correct layer. So just make sure that it reads correctly and we know what are the major contours and what are the minor contours. So this is the only downside to Archicad with regards to topography. There is a bit of a manual process in order to get the contours to read correctly as we want them to read. And it's going to be the same in AutoCAD as well. So we're going to, in Revit, we're going to have the same issue as well. Okay. So now, if I switch off the hidden and I bring back my site topography, I just need to bring back the edges again just to make sure. Press OK. So you can see now that this is actually quite good. And we've got our major and minor contours. Remember how to control your line weights if you want to go and see these. So I'm just going to bring this back for now. So remember, you can use your layers all the time. All I need to make sure is that the contours don't go that far over. So I'm just going to bring that back to there. It just means when I start using my labels a bit further on down the line, that everything is quite neat and concise. Okay, I'm happy with that result. Now I can start bringing back all of my information. So I'm going to go to site Now, what I do like about, I've been given, you can see all of my notes have been added. So I'm going to go and get rid of the information that is not required for this project. I'm going to keep these notes from the contractor or from the surveyor. I'm going to keep all of these, but I need to rework some of the information that was given to me. So for example, this line that's given to us, this is a very important line. This line is actually, I just want to show you the site plan information, so I'm just going to open that example. So in Archicad workshop 4, what I want to explain is that in the example section, this line is this cadastral line that you get given part of your SG diagram, which you get when you buy the property. So when you buy a property, you get a title deed, and you get this as part of the title deed. So this is a very important line. So what we need to do in Archicad very quickly is that we need to define this line on a specific layer and make it represent correctly. So we've adopted it, we've made it an Archicad layer. I'm going to make this layer quite thick, so I'm going to use this cut line. You can dedicate a line to it, but for now I'm just going to make it a very thick line so it stands out. That's very important. Remember, we can change the draw order, etc. So that's going to be a very thick line. Then I'm going to make sure that we add a layer that we're going to add to our layer combination. So I'm going to go to Site. I'm going to call this Boundary. This is a very important line, so we're going to need it. So press OK and make sure now that this sits on your site boundary. Now you can just start typing at the top and we can allocate it to the correct layer. Now typically, once you've created this layer, I would want to create and lock this. So layer, lock layer. It just means that you can't delete it, you can't move it. This layer is very important and must remain locked all the time. And because it's such an important layer, I'm going to go and say, I'm going to have to go and update my site combinations, but we'll do that in a minute. So I'm going to go and say layer site 100. It will disappear. I just have to go to site and switch it on site boundary, and you can make the lock. Now you can add this, you can refresh it for your site combinations. Very important. So it means by default that site boundary line is always going to be locked and you can't edit it. Very important. The next bit of line work we're going to tackle is the building line. Again, this is a very important line, so we're going to add this to our layers as well. So new, we're going to call this site, so it'll be building line. So building line. Now you can see straight away I can update this. Yes, it must be on in my site, and again this must be locked, and I'm going to refresh it. For now I'm going to unlock it, press OK, it will change to custom. It just means now that I can go and change this to building lines. So just go and say building lines, so you can use these very quickly, and we're going to put it on our special building line type that we've created. Okay, so you saw that, I went and added it to my building line. Okay, so straight away we've actually done quite a lot here. We've done quite a lot. We can keep these existing symbols, but I'm going to show you how to add that in a minute. So we are actually in the home stretch. Remember, if you're going to adopt text from another file, if you want to select all text, select the text icon. I want to make sure they're all in the right layer, and then you can press Ctrl A. So what it'll do is it'll select all the text objects in your file. I would go and make sure straight away that these are all on the correct layer. So annotation text, very important. So these should all be on the right layer now. Very, very important. This looks great. We need to add some additional information. Now with the trees, these drawing figures, I'm going to make these a group and I'll delete them eventually. So I'm going to select all of them because I want to use a block for this. I'll explain why I want to use a block. So select that. Remember, holding shift down to select all these objects. Shift, 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 shift. Okay, now that I've got all the trees, I'm going to make them a group. So edit groupings, so group them. Just means you've got more control, and while they're in a group, I'm going to change the layer very quickly to this red line. I just want to know where they are, and I can just put them on the hidden layer for the time being, and I'll bring them back. So custom layers, I'm just going to switch my hidden layer back on just so I can know where they are. Okay, so in layers, just make sure that your hidden layer is on. Press OK. I just want to see this information. You can delete this reference now. If you don't need it anymore, get rid of it because it's just going to pollute your drawing. Okay, we're going to go and put those on the correct layer in a minute, but the trees I want to focus on. Now with the trees, I've given you an object to use to make your tree. So you need to go to File, Library, Library Manager. Now we need to import these trees. So I'm going to go and load an object from a folder I've given you. So go to Archicad and go to Objects. I want you to bring in this tree. So what it'll do, it'll bring in this tree and I'll just load it into embedded family. Just remember you can add other libraries and move them around, but for now we're just going to use the embedded library. Just remember you're trying to keep this embedded library as small as possible. Okay, it's just going to make your life a lot easier. Okay, great. So I'm going to use that. And now before I get cracking, I'm going to go to Objects. Now I need to make sure it's going to be Site General, which is correct. I'm going to go and find the symbol. So straight out the bat, I'm going to use the north point. So remember, find the north point. We need to add a north point, very important. This north point, by the way, its rotation can be relative to true north. So there is a function to change it to, okay, so that's very cool. So that it'll move with your project, but we'll get into that later on. So move this to the right location, don't rotate it, just move it. And just make sure that's on. Okay, so put the north in the right location. We've got a label now. So now we're going to go and add our trees as well. So I'm going to go to Trees. I'm going to pick Landscaping. I'm going to find Trees. So remember, Embedded Library. If you can't find information, I just go to Embedded Library and then you should start finding this information. Okay, so I see it didn't save. So let's just go to File. That does happen. Just make sure that you save the changes. Library Manager. Okay, just make sure. So I'm going to bring this in. You just have to press open. So you're going to reload and apply. Okay, so now that this is part of our embedded library, you must just make sure that you save as well. So you see that it's just going to sort out your libraries. Sometimes there are warnings, don't worry about it for now. Okay, good. So now we've got our tree, press OK. So here we're going to go and find our tree in our embedded library. Okay, so embedded library, tree. Now, before we continue with our tree, we just need to make sure that the settings are correct. So this is the only other downside. So with the pen, the symbolic line, remember this is going to be part of our symbols. So I'm going to put it on that line type. The line type I'm going to leave as is. So the cut line, so all of this information, just make it, I'm just going to put it all in the same layer for now. There's no fill. Okay, great. So I'm happy with the information that I've got going here. You can see I've got the correct pens selected. Pen 2, don't worry about that, because just for 2D, we don't need any other 3D information. Okay, press OK. Now, make sure it's in the right layer. Now I can just simply double put my object in. While you're working with these objects, what I recommend you do is it's going to ask for a grip, so make sure that that is your central grip. So you can see it gives you these different options. And I'm just going to make this 0, so it doesn't really matter. So make it 0. Make sure that's your point of selection. Okay, so it just means if you add more objects. Now just selecting these objects I've noticed is quite tricky, so just be careful about that, I've noticed. So I'm going to move this to this location. So quickly go and put these trees in their right locations. I'm going to add another tree. Remember, you can just duplicate that other tree. So I'm going to go and say I want another tree. Sorry, go to Objects. I'm going to add another one. So it's still setting it from that wrong origin. So let's just go here again. Just make sure that you're using the central origin. You can update this, by the way. Press OK. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to put one here. Move this snap to the middle. Delete that. Delete that. Sorry, delete that. I hope I haven't deleted something that I wasn't supposed to delete, so undo again. Control Z, Control Z. So just be careful what you delete underneath. Okay, that's very important. I think I put 2 in the same place. Grab this one, move this one there. Control, drag. So this is a quick way to do it. Control, Control. So just quickly add your trees. Then when you're done, get them to the correct scale. If you're going to scale your trees, just remember you need to lock this dimension and then I just simply use the scale tool, press OK, because it allows me to say, well, I want to scale you from here, and I want it to scale to this line over here. This is a good workflow if we're going to use aerial imagery. It's important to understand that when we're going to use aerial imagery, we're going to use this block type to do this. That's important to understand. So I'm going to scale again. So I'm going to scale from center, so from there to there. Okay, I've just found working with these circles sometimes it's a weird thing about Archicad, which I'm still trying to get used to. But once you get the hang of it, it's quite intuitive. Okay, so we're just putting these tree objects in the right location, and we'll delete the trees below. Okay, so we'll delete these trees. Okay, scale that, press OK. Okay, great. So it didn't scale. Maybe I've put 2 objects. I've done that in the past. So just make sure there's not 2 objects there. No, it didn't scale the object. So just make sure that you're selecting the right object. This is very frustrating, so maybe switch that off so it doesn't automatically select the object below. I have noticed that's very frustrating at times. So I'm just going to scale this object, press OK. So I'm going to scale from there to there to there. Okay, you don't have to get it exact for now. And then if you want to tab, that I don't need anymore, so delete that information. So now I've got my individual trees, these blocks. This is important because it just means if you want to select these very quickly, Control A, you can select them quickly, change them on the right layer. Okay, so that's handy. You can see that you can select things quite quickly and you can use filters. Okay, now we're pretty much in the home stretch. We've got all the information that we need. The only thing that I would want to do for now, so the topography I'm going to hide for now, because I'm not going to need that, and I don't need these dashed lines, and that's a bit different to Revit. So that I can just say layer hide for now, hide layer. I don't need that layer, so in custom, in site, I can go and hide that site just for now, terrain. I don't need it for now, just update our site settings. We don't need it anymore. This line work, I'm going to select all of this line work. So remember, use the cross selection tool at any point. So hold shift down to select more line work. I'm just going to put all of this line work. Yeah, I've just noticed if you hold shift down. Okay, now just make sure that all of this line work gets put on to the correct layer and path as well. So make sure that goes on to site drafting. So site general, because it's drafting, it's your site information. And then in line weights, I'm just going to make this line weight. It's an important line, so I'm going to make them thick enough because it's the road line. The only other thing I am going to add quickly is some street names, because that's very important. With grabbing text, just be careful. It is tricky to grab text sometimes. So just remember you can use the window select tool for that. So I have noticed it is tricky to grab text sometimes. Control. I'm just going to put this text over here, change this to 5 mil, and I'm going to change this to main road. So just remember, just keep looking at the examples I've given you. Okay, just look at the examples. I didn't put the street names in, so we just need to do that. So here's the example I've given you. Just open in the other view. So it's main road and new road. So just add those as well. So select the text tool and then double click on the text. So my bad. Select the text. This is the only thing I do not like about Archicad. So that's going to be main road. Good. Move this. Here you can use spacebar to switch on the quick select tool. Okay, so let's just put main road over here. I'm going to grab this, control, rotate, and this will be new street. Okay, as per the example, new street. Okay. So here I'm going to go and select text and then just click on here again. So I'm going to call this new street. Good. Okay, so now we're in the home stretch. We've got all our text. Now we've just got to go and focus on our sheet very quickly. So go and open up your sheets. So go to Sheets. I'm going to go to My Site. Now just remember, if you want to change these settings, you need to go to Options, Project Preferences, Site Location, and Edit. Remember, change this information as you need. So Site Plan, remember to rename the project number. Please change your names as well. And just make sure what sheet this is. You'll need to change that as well. So change my sheet over here and make sure that everything is set up like the sizes are correct. So remember, in settings you can go and set all this information. Okay, so A1 landscape, all of this is preset to work. With our sheet active, we can go back to our site drawing. So in the Navigator, Project Navigator, we're going to go and say, I'm going to place on sheet. So I'm going to go and say place on layout. So put this on your layout. One thing just to remember, when you put these things, when you put these on a layout, you can change the extent of what you're seeing. So just maybe make sure that you're seeing everything. For now, we've got a label. This is the only thing that I'm still learning in Archicad, which I don't like, is the label tools, the automatic labels. They're not very intuitive. So I'm going to say no title for now. So it looks correct as per our standard. I'm going to try and build something for us that will work. So I just have to spend a bit of time to get that working correctly. The other thing that we need to do in our view, so go and look for the legend. I created a drafting legend that we're going to use and put in our sheet. So in our legend, make sure that it's 1 to 10 and make sure in settings that when you put this on a sheet, it's all to the correct scale. So just make sure that this is all correct. Go back to your sheet. So your sheet should be open, My Site, and I'm going to place this on my sheet. So what is nice, you can simply drag and drop these on your sheet as well. So I can simply drag and drop these as well, and you can see it work perfectly. Okay, so these, place them, move them around. So just make sure that you use the move tool. Put them in a good location. Try and get things to line up and switch off the label as well. We generally don't show labels for legends. Okay, so you can see putting this drawing together is actually quite intuitive in some respects. You can see our layers are looking correct. Just make sure on your ground floor that this is set up correctly and everything is reading correctly. Okay, so we've got our line weights looking correct. The last thing we've got left to do in our sheet is to export this. So remember to save your project, save project. So save your project as, remember to save the project, My Site. Okay, yes. And what I want you to do now is export the sheet. So go to your sheet quickly. I want you to export your sheet as a PDF as well. So I'm going to go to File, Save As, PDF. Okay. You can do batch options as well. So just remember, we'll do that later. Just make sure everything is in. Here you can say selected layouts and navigation. So this is where you can batch things. Okay, page options, just make sure this is all correct. Landscape, and then I'm just going to call it My Site. Just like this, I'm going to save this in that location that I was working. Okay, so just make sure, so desktop, just be careful where you're saving the stuff. So desktop, workshop 4, Archicad, and I'm going to save this as a PDF. Great. Once this is done, I want you to upload your Revit and Archicad files and your PDF. Okay, so if we just go to workshop 4, Archicad. Okay, so this should all be saved in this location. I think I've been saving in the wrong place, so save as. Oh, I've just put it in the wrong place. So I'm going to cut that. That's fine, it's in the right place. So on my desktop, so just remember you need to upload this information. So in Archicad, here's my PDF. Save your project as well. Okay, so I just want to show you what the PDF looks like. So here's my PDF from Archicad. Great.